Varman. Good day, Coach.
Oh, so happy to be here, man.
Hey,
in our 1% improvement. Expecting a date for
a
episode
he or a
6.
she?
It's a he.
It's a he.
Started a crazy thing about sleep. So
Visited the stadium in 2015. It's my number one ballpark. Amongst the 23 ballparks I visited across MLB, this is number one.
wow,
We're going to talk about performance.
performance.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Is it like a bad word? Everybody wants to improve. Indicators.
Yep.
Then you really don't know if you're actually improving.
It's visible, it's measurable, it gets done. Does performance define your identity?
People start to try to cheat their results to show the people that they're improving. My message to everybody is that
Good day, folks. Welcome to the Brik. I'm Dominic Double D Deschênes, and I'm with Coach Pierre Varman. Good day, Coach.
oh, so happy to be here, man.
Hey,
in our
same here. I know.
in our 1% improvement.
I noticed the empty chair next to you. What is this all about?
I'm expecting a date for
okay.
for
A he
episode
or a
6.
she?
It's a he.
It's a he.
For episode
number
6.
6?
Yeah.
Really?
Actually, I'll be here.
Okay,
I'll
and
be there,
our guest will
and
be
he'll
sitting
be
there.
Here, yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
so how?
I'm not going to say anything
No.
about it.
Hey, next episode,
Yeah.
don't miss it.
It's going to be our
there.
first guest.
It will be one of many, right?
I
More
hope so.
to come.
I hope so. Why not? Why not?
Agreed. So how have you been?
Fantastic.
Have you?
Yeah, I've been fantastic. I've got several things going on at the same time. I'm like a bit hyperactive.
So what's your number one thing going on right now in your life?
Sleep.
Is it?
Yeah,
What about sleep?
I started a crazy thing about sleep. So I stared doing 1 week where the guy said, "Don't do that." So I said, "I'll have to do it."
I'll give it a shot, of course.
And sleeping at 11:59 at night,
Yeah.
waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, doing that for 1 week, and then I get another 15 minutes for the next week and another 15 minutes for the week after.
Wow.
I cheated on the next week.
Yeah.
I went for a half an hour more.
Okay.
And now I'm on my 3rd week and I'm getting 6 hours of sleep.
Okay.
And I have never slept better. And it's only 5 or
Really?
6 hours.
And you feel good and recovered the next day?
Not 100%, but
Not
I'm
100%?
sleeping straight through the night.
Okay.
Because I had the problem of waking in the middle of the night.
I
So
hear
I'm
you.
doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's one thing. I've lost more weight.
Really?
Yeah, I've lost more weight. I'm trying a new diet.
Okay, what's that new diet?
It's
You're always trying things
it's
out.
being normal diet.
Okay,
Okay. But what I do is really simple. So I have only 3 plates a day. So I'll have like late breakfast, small lunch, and a supper, and I'll have 1 dessert. But during the day,
Okay.
I stopped alcohol almost at 100%. You know, sometimes I like to have a real beer. And I lost 10 pounds in 2 months.
Wow,
But,
congrats.
nice weight.
My
Yeah.
goodness, that's
Yeah,
great.
but,
Amazing.
But feeling healthy, but I think the sleep is a game
Helps.
changer.
Yeah, it
How are
really
you
is.
doing?
Doing fantastic. I did
Oh.
the LA Marathon.
You got the LA 26.2.
I do the LA Marathon jersey, right?
Yeah, but
And
even though did you finish?
I did.
Okay, when you don't finish, they just
Well, they
erase
it.
numbers.
Yeah, they removed the 6, they put 2.2. That's what they do. No, but amazing event. I'm not here
Fantastic.
to promote the event, but really amazing. It was fantastic. 26,000 participants. Lots of supporters. The LA style, the glamour, the prestige was all there. It was great. It was great. I had a great time. Other than the
Congratulations.
preachers on the in the oh man, they were all over.
Okay.
And I don't know. They should put some sort of rules over there, or
So if you're doing
to
a
prevent
marathon,
this.
you can't be close to God, so they're trying to get you closer.
Well,
to
they're
God.
trying to get you to, praise the Lord, and Jesus will welcome you to paradise
Yeah.
because you're running and you're doing something good for your health and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? And,
But
but it
if-
was too much. There was like 7 or 8 of them.
For our American friends, if you're
Yep.
listening to us, we're from Quebec,
Yep.
and about 100 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe less,
Yeah.
we decided that we were pushing away church.
Yep.
Because we were completely oppressed, and now we're kind of like, we still believe in the Almighty kind of thing, but we don't
Well, we don't
practice
practice
anymore.
it. Well, that's
Yeah.
it. We believe in something.
Yeah.
But we don't go out there on the street making, noise and trying to
Yeah.
encourage people to join our
Well,
our,
I'll admit
our
when
religion.
things go really, really bad, like
Yeah.
if things are not going well, I do a little like a deal. deal with God. Actually, Nick, who's our
Hey, Nick.
when we found
Yes,
out
sir.
that
Thanks
my
for
wife
being here.
when we found out that my wife was pregnant with him,
Yeah.
I went to the bathroom in the restaurant, and I didn't ever tell you this. And
Wow. Okay, we're revealing family secrets here, folks.
She thought that
Yep.
she was going to test positive for pregnancy.
Yeah.
So I went to the bathroom and I actually did a little deal with God.
No.
I did.
And what was that deal?
I'll keep that to myself.
Okay, good.
But it worked. I mean, he's all healthy. He's
Yeah,
got
he is.
he's got
He's ready.
3 arms, 2 legs.
And there you go. And he knows how to master all these cameras and the sound and the volume and the lighting and everything, right? So,
It's
which is
great
great.
to have him because
It really
I mean,
is.
although I like technology,
Yep.
I'm really not good at this kind of, you know, these buttons and the HD and.
But you still get your way around it, right?
I do, but it's like it stresses me out
No,
because I want things
hear
to be
you.
perfect.
I'm the same.
And
I'm the same.
and then I'm just worried that something's not going to go well. You know,
If
so,
I don't master something and I want it to be perfect because that's who I am, and I don't master, it's frustrating. Right?
yeah. So anyway,
And Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, of course. I was in LA, so visited the Dodger Stadium. That's where the marathon start line was, right? And then I had the opportunity to visit. It remains. I visited the stadium in 2015. It's my number 1 ballpark. Amongst the 23 ballparks I visited
Really?
across MLB, this is number 1.
Wow.
It's amazing.
okay.
It's
So you
just-
suggested,
Wow.
so I should go.
More or less, that's what I'm
I
suggesting.
like baseball in a park. I don't.
No, I
watch
agree, I
Baseball
agree.
on TV, but
No,
in the
yeah.
park, it's
The
amazing.
the ambiance is
Yeah,
just
yeah, the whole
amazing,
thing.
man. Yeah, it's fun. So, Coach, today we're going to talk about performance.
Performance.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Is it
So-
like a bad word?
Oh, my God, that's a good question.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's got this thing. It's got this.
It
thing
does. This
that
negative.
all of a sudden, when you talk about performance, it's as if it's this only for elites or
Yeah,
only
yeah,
people
yeah,
who
yeah,
are,
yeah.
are just always going to the edge. And performance is just improving. It's just improvement.
That's what it is.
That's all it is.
So, what's your definition? If I was to ask you your definition of performance, what would it be?
For me, it's just having an objective and doing everything you can
Yep.
in your power to get to that objective.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense.
And trying to improve every day. I mean, what we're trying to do here on this podcast is trying to give the best performance we can with what we have. Okay, so you're listening to this podcast. We actually have an iPhone 13, an iPhone 14, and an iPad filming this.
Yep.
We have, good microphones. It's an investment of about, I'd say, between $1,500 and $2,000. Now, I could have gone all the way and just bought the best cameras or
professional
the best audio
and,
and stuff like that. But I wanted to do the best we could with what we had. So I think by bringing Nick as editing, then, we're performing a little bit better. And that's what sports should be. Is you say you've done your first 5K, you did 29 minutes and 30 seconds. Everybody wants to improve. It's not as if you're saying, oh, I'm fine with that now. Next time I hope to go slower.
Yep.
Nobody wants to go slower. So as soon as you feel like you want to improve, then you're talking about performance. And it's not a bad word.
You really are. And, you and I have talked about this before, referring to Atomic Habits, the James Clear book that we read, the 1% improvement, right? Every time we do something, we try to improve by 1%. And you know what? At the end of the year, you will have improved by, X number of percentage points, right? It's just great. As long as you continue measuring yourself. Is performance necessarily a measurable thing? Do you think we need to measure? Do you need metrics? You need indicators to measure, markers, or what do you need to
I think you do
track
because
performance?
Because if you just go on feeling,
Yep.
We're biased. So say you did a workout and it's your first workout. How hard was that workout? 10 out of 10. It's the hardest workout ever. It's your first workout. Now you do the same workout a second day, a third day, a fourth day, a fifth day. And then eventually you ask the same person, so how hard was that workout? Well, 5 out of 10. So did you improve? Did you change? Is your person different? It's your perception that's different. your perception changes. So if you never have any markers or never have any performance indicators,
Yep.
then you really don't know if you're actually improving, if what you're doing is making a difference.
And you know what? In the business world, we often refer to, there's a quote that I like very much at the office where I work. What is visible and measurable gets done. And to me, that is somehow related to performance, because it does have an impact if you measure indicators and you follow what you're doing, whether it be work, whether it be personal life. If there's an objective tied to it, if you measure and you make it visible, it will help you better perform. And I find this, what is measurable and visible gets done. And it's true. Think about all the trainings that we do. The buddy system that you introduced early this year, same thing. It's visible, it's measurable, it gets done. Helps you
because
perform.
the buddy system was very simple. If you were training once a week and getting a buddy makes you train twice a week, you've got a 100% improvement.
And you're committed to someone.
And you're committed. So that's the marker. The marker was I did more, I was more consistent, I did more hours per week. It doesn't always have to be about speed or threshold or FTP. And the thing is that when you start looking at performance markers, then people start defining themselves only by this performance markers. And that's where the bad word comes in, because then all of a sudden, if you're not improving every day, does that mean you're getting worse? I mean, I always like to refer to the best athletes in the world, and especially Olympic athletes. You can improve by 0.3 of a second over 4 years. Does that mean
it's unreal?
Does that mean you suck?
No, of course not.
So this
not.
person is trying to get stronger, is trying to get faster, mentally better. Golfers is a good example. I mean, they never do a better score every single round. Never.
You're right.
I mean, but the idea is to have the best day possible on that day. And I think people should relish being tested or relish doing events and seeing how they're doing, but not define themselves by that.
So, question for you, Coach. Does performance define your identity?
Well, it shouldn't. It shouldn't, because if it's the only way of defining yourself, that's why a lot of Olympic athletes are in depression after their last events, because they define themselves only by their performance.
That's all they do. That's all they do. It's their life for X number of years, months and years, right? Of course.
I think if you focus on how you got to that event and the amount of time, the amount of choices that you had to make, the resilience of
sacrifices
not missing,
and everything.
the sacrifices,
of course.
I think that should define you. I would like to see myself as a consistent athlete who doesn't quit, kind of thing. That's that, mentally tough. But I think I'd rather be defined that way. It's incredible to see certain professional athletes. Oh, that person, he always goes all the way to the end. I mean, she's so resilient. No matter what happens. I mean, I've seen tennis players never give up. They're in the match, and Rafael Nadal is the best example. He's losing 5-1, and the guy's not going to give up. But it has nothing to do with the amount of championships he's won. It has to do that when you're against that person, that person's not going to give up. That's his identity. And if you're like that, you're going to perform.
You know what? While I was in California a couple of weeks back, I attended an NBA game, like the LA Clippers against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't even know
Timberwolves,
who they are. Timberwolves.
They won the championship a couple of years ago.
Did they?
Yeah, with
good. Thank you.
Anatombo or something like that.
Super.
Yeah.
So after half of there's like 4 quarters, right? But that's it. To the game. I'm no basketball
4
fan.
quarters.
There's 4 of them, right?
4
there you go. So I did follow the game. I was paying attention, which is great. After half of the game, the first 2 quarters, the LA Clippers were leading by 25 points. And you felt that the Timberwolves were just the morale. And then they started the third quarter. And 1 minute after they started the third quarter, the head coach of the Timberwolves called a timeout. And then he rallied the guys. And then they came back and they won the game by 20 points. Unreal. They were mentally, we felt it on the court as spectators. We felt that on the court, you mentioned something about the mental toughness and being, mentally prepared or connected to perform. That head coach did something to these guys because it turned around and they won the game. They were trailing by 25 points and they won by 20.
I'm sure that the coach is the way he's been preparing his athletes has been decided what kind of a team are we going to be? What kind of an athlete are you going to be individually, and what kind of team are we going to be? James Clear in his book talks about what kind of identity you want.
Exactly.
And when I started my coffee thing with the exercises, I realized that, you don't want to be that person who skips the exercises, who procrastinates, 2 days, 3 days a month. Nobody really wants to be that person. So you have to tell yourself, what kind of a athlete do I want to be? What kind of a person do I want to be? What kind of identity do I want to have? And I think if you go that way, the rest just it falls like dominoes. I mean, performance, I've always said that if you do your work, you have fun while you're doing it, you're disciplined, you get over those days where you're not motivated, the results will come.
So then your guess would be that coach went back to the why that these guys were doing this, who they wanted to be or become as ball players. And that probably, kicked them in the rear end, and then they were able to get back on the court and win that game.
Yeah, I think nowadays with the new generations, putting the question to the athletes instead of telling them what to do.
Good point.
Is the new way of doing things. What kind of team do you guys want to be? Do you want to be the team that are losing by 25 points and now are going to lose by 50 points? Is that what you want to be?
And it's the same in the business world. In the coaching, I do a lot of coaching, performance coaching, and it's the same thing. Always turn the question back to the person that's in front of you so that they come up with the answer, not you as a coach. You ask questions and allow them to formulate the next steps and the answers. Right?
So what do you do when they don't have the answer?
Well, you walk them through, you go through a thought process, and eventually they get there and they'll say something because as a coach, you know what they need to do. You know that they need to get there, and that's the next logical step. But then how do you get them to, buy in, and for them to come up with this? Ask questions, go back to the why. Go back to, and as soon as they will come up with something at one point that will be somehow related to the objective that they're trying to achieve. Yeah, so I think dialogue, questions, that's how you get to...
with athletes, during the training program, sometimes they lose their way. So they're starting the training program, it's going well, and people started asking them questions. Oh, what are you going to be doing? Oh, I'm going to be doing the half Ironman in Montreal or in Tremblant or whatever. And then, okay, so are you any good? And then you go, oh, well, yeah, I'm a okay athlete. I'm just starting off. Okay, and are you gonna win? And you start the external pressures start to make you think, wait a second, maybe I could win, or maybe I could improve I could go to the world age group championships. And then you start changing your objective or changing your focus.
Adjusting, yeah, for sure.
And I try to bring them back to, remember when you decided to do that event? You remember when you talked to me the first time and you said, I asked you what your objective were? Focus on that. Yeah. Let's go back to that.
Go back to the why. Bingo. Yeah. That's and sometimes what I like to do as well is to reverse the roles. So what would you do if you're in my shoes? I'm your leader. We sit down, there's an issue, performance is not there, but we need to get the job done. So what would you do if you were in my shoes? So help me help you. Yeah. And then people see it differently, right?
Jerry Maguire. The film yes, Jerry Maguire. Help me to help you.
Help me to help you. Yeah. You alluded to consistency a few times, Coach. Is consistency a key ingredient to performance?
Well, it's the first key to anything.
Probably is, huh? To anything.
To anything. You're going to start a training program. The first number one thing that the athlete and the coach should be focused on is being consistent in your workouts. Often what happens is that I'll say, okay, how many hours do you want to do per week? People always overestimate the number of hours.
Or they underestimate what it means in terms of real commitment. Yeah, 15 hours a week. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, they start with 2 hours a day. I got 2 hours a day to invest. Okay, so I said, okay, 14 hours. Oh, well, maybe not 14 hours. Okay, so 12? Oh, 12 is a lot of hours, right?
6 days, I get a day off. So 6 days, 2 hours a day. Yep.
12 hours.
Yeah.
And they go, okay.
Well, a long back ride on Saturday, so then I'm okay. That's like 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
So I've got 8 hours to do during the week over 5 days. So long run, it's still demanding.
Yeah,
right?
It's demanding. So you overestimate the amount of hours that you're actually free to do, and then what happens is that you don't make it. So you start. Okay, well, no, put the plan that would be the best plan for me to do, like the maximum that I could do, and I'll try to do that.
I want to be up there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So after a couple of weeks, it's not working.
Yeah.
And I suggest, well, why don't we do a little bit less? Oh, no. I mean, this week is going to be a good week, and I'll do that. I always tell them, I'd rather you do half the hours consistently than try to do double hours.
Have a wishy-washy training program.
Yeah, because if you want to do 12 hours and you do 6 hours, you're actually failing.
Well, you're failing, and mentally, it's negative. Your brain will perceive as you're not getting the job done. Right?
You're doing 50% of the work.
Well, that's it.
Now, if I tell you, let's do 6 hours, and you do 6 hours, then you're doing 100% of the work.
Well, then you meet the objective.
You meet the objective.
If you do 8, then you overachieve.
People like to succeed.
Yeah.
So we were talking about doing your marathon. Well, it's a lot easier for somebody to tell you, well, get to first 5K. Before going all the way to 42, why don't you start with the first 5K?
1 aid station at the time.
1 aid station
there
at
you
a time.
Go.
So
21 aid stations.
So we're doing 1 aid station at a time.
Yep. And
it's a lot easier for your brain to succeed in doing that next aid station than to think about going all the way to 42.2 kilometers. I think that's the way people should think. So consistency comes even better when you succeed, because when you're in a failure, then all of a sudden you feel like you're not doing enough, and you're doing that catch up. You're trying to catch up to the missing training.
So consistency, but not at any cost. I mean, it's got to be there. It's got to be achievable. It's got to be realistic to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because if you want, again, going back to if you want to do 12 hours, you only do 6, then it has a negative impact on your brain, and you'll start procrastinating, and it's going to go downhill.
See, there's another thing about consistency.
Yep.
Because sometimes I know that a lot of adults or a lot of coaches have said you're better doing 3 times a week than trying to do 6 times a week, all crooked.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of don't agree with that. I like routine. I like routine. So I'd rather, if you have 6 hours to do, somebody says, well, I could do 3 times 2 hours, consistently 3 times a week.
Yep.
I said, if you could do 6 times 1 hour, I think that would be better.
Because you would be probably increasing that consistency level, I'm assuming.
Because you're developing a routine.
You're developing a routine.
You're developing a routine, and the mind and the body likes to do the routine. So if you're starting anything like sleep, I would mention before, if you're starting to try to eat well, you're not going to just do it once a week. You're not going to do it 3 times a week. Yep. So say you said, I'm going to stop alcohol 3 times a week. Well, okay.
Why are you looking at me with these big eyes? Come on, coach.
You're not going to succeed. So I think somebody told me the other day he was a little bit of injured, and he was training for a marathon. And I said, well, listen, we want to do 50K per week. That's what he was able to do. So we're gonna cut it up in 5. We'll do 5 times 10K instead of doing one of 20K, another 15K, and another 15K.
Yep.
And the person's not injured. The person's very consistent, and there's improvement.
Oh, that's interesting. So that recipe of doing it more frequently, but having that consistency, helped the recovery of that person?
Well, it helped develop a routine, and actually the body doesn't know the difference. Your
You're right.
body doesn't know
You're
the
right.
difference between
Yeah.
10K runs
Yeah.
and 150K run. Actually, the 150K run seems great, but the body will not react well to that. So 10K runs, you'll actually at the end of the week get the same kind of mileage. Your improvement will be better
With the 5, 10 Ks.
Yes, your markers,
Interesting.
your improvement will be better. It's a misconception. The 3 times a week thing was built for people who didn't have time.
I see.
But you miss 1 time a week and you're down to twice a week.
Yeah. Well, it's a 33% reduction
It
of your
hurts.
training, right?
So if you're
hurts.
trying for 6 times a week and you miss 1,
Well, it's
doesn't hurt as much.
1/6 of your training that you're missing.
yeah. So that's why we're getting back to consistency.
Yep.
Consistency is deciding what's realistic for you to do, the amount of hours that you can really invest, trying to stay within those hours.
So let me bounce on this, and then I want to talk about a second ingredient that you alluded to in that performance recipe. So consistency being number one. In the business world, we often refer to having SMART objectives: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. That's consistency, more or less. It's
Yeah.
specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, realistic, and it's timely. The 5 times versus the 3 times a week makes a huge difference. So something to keep in mind.
If you start your program and the first third of your program, all you look for is consistency and not even performance, long term you'll do better. So
Wow, that's interesting.
you would be better off not having a
Wow,
training
really?
program
Okay.
and just consistently training once a day, 1 hour a day,
Okay.
no matter what you felt like doing, and being consistent, and then starting the program. If you could get there,
So in the long run, you would be better off than doing
you
a
would,
training
in the
program
long
3
run,
times
you
a
would
week.
be better off than trying to do intervals and missing one day out, 1 week out of 2.
Consistency, number one ingredient to performance. Number 2, and I bounce back on the 3 C's that you had mentioned in a previous podcast.
Well, competence, because
Competencies, yeah.
you want to learn. The thing is that people. So let's get back to this person that's running 6 times a week. He's doing 60K, and he says, well, he's been doing this for 3 months. So eventually he gets into a kind of like a routine, but it also gets into a rut. So he's always or she's always running the same speed, and there's the curve,
Yep.
the improvement curve
Yep.
is starting to slow down a little bit.
Yep.
So in the beginning, it's like this, and it's just starting to level off.
And they will plateau at one point. And,
Yeah.
and be
So
up there.
then you have to, if you want improvement, you have to learn things. So either you learn better technique, either you learn a little bit more about speed, either you learn what your markers are. I mean, are you somebody that reacts very well to cardiovascular training? Have you been doing weights? So what you want to do is you insert subtle improvements or skills.
So that's the
that'll make you
notion of
improve.
competencies,
Yeah.
acquiring skills and competencies to help your training and your performance.
Exactly. We tend to use that a lot for sport, but it's in everything. I mean, if you're starting your job, you came out of school and you have your degree and you're starting your job. Well, and within a year, that job has changed. So if you're not learning what the new thing is,
No, man, you're gonna be outdated.
you're
and
going to be
gonna the end
outdated.
of it.
So, I mean, that's why we're doing the video podcast now, because audio is great, but video is a new thing. So we had to learn how we're going to do this video podcast. And if you're just saying, okay, well, we'll forget about it because we'll never be able to do it, and I don't want to learn, then you're not gonna succeed.
Before we talk about the last C, I'd like to. Do you know this guy, Dave Goggins?
Yeah.
He's a Navy SEAL. He's just a machine. He's got his own definition of performance. And Nick, I don't know if you have a chance to look it up for us. I'm sure he's got something to do with He's got something on performance. Look it up. We'll talk about the third C of the three C's to performance, and we'll give Nick some time to look into it. Confidence is the last C. So consistency, competencies, and then confidence. So how is that helping performance?
Well, I'd like to talk about maybe let's talk about we'll talk about golf. All right.
Yep.
So in the beginning, you start playing golf and you play 130. All right. So what everybody does.
Why are you smiling?
I'm not looking at you. 130.
Excuse me, you are, but that's fine. That's fine.
So the first time you go,
it's on a good day that I play 130, right?
On a good day. And so you go, okay, well, I'd like to play again, but I'd rather play a little bit better. So what you're going to do is you're going to go for a lesson, or you're going to watch YouTube, or you're going to try and improve. And then you're going to improve, and you go into the driving range. Now, everybody has ever played golf before knows that on the driving range, usually we're pretty good. And then you get onto the real course, and then all of a sudden, that perfect drive that you were doing on the driving range.
You have peer pressure. You have friends. You have colleagues, people on your foursome that adds pressure, to your game, and that's why.
Yeah. So you've learned the skill, but you haven't gained the confidence yet.
There you go.
To use it in a competitive environment.
Context, yeah.
So I think a good example for triathlon is swimming. So people get good in the pool. They improve their technique. They do their lengths. Hey, I'm training. I'm doing 80 lengths in a row, consistent speed.
Yep.
It's going fantastic. And then they have a triathlon coming up, and they decide, hey, you know what? I'm swimming really well. I'm going to go to that triathlon. I am into it. Okay? And
it's, of course, open water swimming.
Water swimming, and all of a sudden they get there in the morning and there's waves.
Oh.
They go, oh, I never swam with waves before.
So or jellyfish.
Your feeling of confidence is starting to
go down.
To go down. Because all of a sudden that's something I haven't practiced before. So you say, oh, let's go anyways. And then you realize after only 15, 20, 25 meters, oh my God, this is like another sport. So that's the competence. The competence is that you didn't take the time to go into the lake and be a good lake swimmer. That's one thing. The second thing is that you never went into the lake with waves. You always go when it's pristine and mirror-like, in the morning, early morning. Yeah. You got to go in the afternoon when the wind comes up and the waves come up. Then you have to go with friends and get them to be close to you, because that's another thing.
Get used to it, because that's the way it is.
So you're learning different skills that are going to eventually help you to have confidence when you're going to get to the competition. Now, you can learn all these skills and still get to the competition and not have a perfect race. You'll have a good race or an okay race or an okay experience, but not perfect. So another thing you have to do is go back to another event. The problem with triathletes is they do too few events. They'll do one or two big events. They'll get to the event. It's a new experience, you're either swimming in the ocean, or maybe there's 3,000 people, or maybe there's a current in the water and something that you haven't gone through before. So it's a lot of pressure for just one event. So learning all the skills that you need to learn so that you get to the event and you have confidence, that takes time. And just consistency is not enough.
No.
Learning is important.
And I want to go back to this. Nick, go ahead. What is Mr. Goggins saying on the performance?
We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well
so
said.
That mirrors perfectly what I just said.
Yep. It does.
Your expectations is, I'm going to get to the event. I've swam well in the pool.
I feel good.
It's going to go great.
Yep. It's going to go great.
Well, your expectation is that, but your training hasn't permitted you to get there.
You know what? Through the LA Marathon, I came across two mental challenges. Number one was a positive height. I had reviewed the course before. I knew it was going to be hilly, right?
Yeah.
Are we good? Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I am always nervous when I see Nick, walking around
in the studio.
Yes. So, and the positive height was, then I went back to my competencies, and I said, okay, what should I do? So I reduced the length of my strides, running strides. Is that it? Stride?
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Stride length.
So there you go. So I reduced it, and it went well. I went up. I didn't walk. Usually, sometimes I walk, right, when it's hilly, but I did not. I went back to that. I went back to the competencies I've acquired, and it went well. And the second time was a kilometer 30 something, 32, 33. Weather went up to 20 degrees Celsius. It was hotter than the morning. Morning was like 11, 12. So then I said, okay, I need to adjust my hydration because obviously I still have 10K to go, right? So I did beef up my hydration for the last few. There was like 3 aid stations. I knew more or less where they were located. But I go back to what you mentioned, my training, not my training, this past training specifically, but in the past, getting used to training when it's hot, getting used to, run with hills. And how to manage and cope, you know what? It helped me a lot. I was able to put this into practice, made a huge difference.
You should definitely have a checklist. So when you're getting
like
to
that.
any
I
event,
like that.
if you're going to a marathon, if you're going to a triathlon, an Ironman, you should have a checklist of things that you're going to go through.
Yep.
You can go through with this with a coach. You can go to you can Google what are all the skills I need to do in Ironman. And Google will actually come up with all the skills. You want to go to GPT, you might get the same thing. And you have this checklist and go through that checklist one by one and make sure you do that well. Danny Desrosiers went to Australia and he did 6,000 kilometers.
Yeah, kilometers in what, 6 months or something
or
like that?
12,000 kilometers? I don't want to.
It was more than 6,000 for sure. Probably in the 15,000 range. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah,
Right?
a lot.
I trained him for about 2 years. And during those 2 years, he had a checklist. It didn't even come from me.
So items like what on that checklist?
Example, you're going for
Run on,
for
cycle,
6 months.
okay.
You're going to have a bike, right?
Yep.
And your bike is going to break down. So
what
he
do you
had
do?
to learn how to
I
do
see,
mechanics.
I see.
And he had to learn how to do mechanics if he didn't have access to a bike shop.
Yep.
It served him well. The other thing is you have to learn to bike in the heat because over there it could be 40 degrees
in the
Celsius.
rain, or if it's cold, or because you don't know what to
all
expect.
those
right?
boxes.
All of
And
the above.
The boxes that I made him check off were all the mental boxes because
Okay.
I said, you're going to go with somebody over there in Australia. Yes, he's your cousin, but you're going to have to spend time with that person because you both are going to live through stress. Someone might want to quit. You might not. You might hate each other during the event or during that 6 months time. How are you going to deal with that? And so, but he went through that box by box by box. This is something that athletes do not do. They hope
That
there's
things
a little
will
bit
be
of like
perfect. Conditions
yeah.
will be perfect on
Well,
that
I
day.
did my swimming, I did my biking, and I did my
the
running.
volume, but perfect conditions, of
Yeah.
course.
Kind of putting your head in the sand.
Yeah.
So what else could happen? Well, I could lose my bottle. What happens when you lose your bottle? So you
Yeah,
got
what do
to
you
train
do?
without water. What happens if my watch doesn't work? What are you going to do now? I've never trained without a watch. Maybe you should try that. What happens if I get out of the water and I start getting cramps? I've never had cramps before.
You mentioned that, Coach, and 2 or 3 years ago, I did the 70.3 in Atlantic City.
Mm-hmm.
And my bracelet, my watch bracelet broke down just before swimming, just before we started the event. Man, I freaked out. And then I was in line. I asked the guy next to me, I said, could you put this in my tri? I had my wetsuit on. I said, I'll bring down could you put this in my tri-suit? Make sure it's nice and tight. But then I said, okay. Now, all along during my swimming, I was thinking, I said, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do? I didn't have a GPS on my bike, right? I only had my watch at the time. So I said, what am I going to do? I don't know my speed. My hydration, my nutrition is based on distance, timing.
On time.
And we're in kilometers in Canada. In the U.S., we're in miles. Okay. So I said, you know what? I don't need my watch. I'll go on that bike. All I need to do is convert miles to kilometers, and then I'm okay. I know my speed. Average was 31, 32 kilometers an hour. And you know what? That's all I'm going to do. And it worked out okay. I didn't have my watch, and it went okay. Did I test it before? No. I had a bit of a panic moment, of course, in that waiting for that swim start. If I had practiced it, it would have been better because I would have remained calm still, but you need to prepare.
I think
Prep-
you have the you
prep
have the
for
capacity
worst
to
and hope
adapt.
for best.
You have to have the capacity to adapt, and some people don't have that.
No, I agree. Before one last question on performance coach. Does performance generate outputs or outcomes? Outputs or outcomes? Outputs being, I'll give you my 2 cents on this, and then I want to get your perspective on this. Outputs being, you train, you do a training, an interval training, and then you get to the end, you look at your stats. That's an output. That's an output. You were measured, you delivered, you did your job. That's an output. Outcome is becoming an Ironman, crossing the finish line, physically being a bit more fit physically. That's an outcome of performance, right? So do you see a distinction between the two, between an output and an outcome? Are the two related to performance? I see a big question mark on your face. I like that.
I think it's completely different.
Okay. So
Completely
why?
different.
Give me your 2 cents on this.
Because your first objective is to finish a race. You're going to get to the race. You're going to
Which is
finish the race.
an output.
Okay, so
Yep.
you're getting to the event and you're seeing yourself crossing the finish line. That's the most important thing of all.
Which is an output.
So
it's
the rest,
measurable, it's a result, it's there.
yeah. So all the rest is just little measurements to tell you, am I improving?
Which
or
are
am I not
smaller
improving? Am I
outputs
still
and
following
results.
the plan?
Yep.
They're little markers to tell you, okay, I'm on track and all that. And I think when people get off track, when all of a sudden, they decide, well, the markers are never enough, or this other person, the comparison game where, you have a friend that's actually doing 100 kilometers and you're only doing 80 kilometers. Oh my God. I had somebody this week saying, I noticed that some of the people that are in the club are doing 18 hours a week and I'm only doing 10. Am I doing enough? And yeah.
The only piece here I want to bring up is even crossing the finish line is an output, right? It's a result. You cross that finish line, you accomplish your marathon, your Ironman, your 70.3 or whatever you're doing. The outcome is what goes back to the why, is what brings the real value of what you're doing. Like crossing the finish line of a marathon or an Ironman doesn't mean anything, but being physically fit because you trained for so many months, being mentally stronger, having measurements, having objectives, having that discipline, that consistency is the real outcome, right?
Well, I think that's why you have to decide. You decided in the beginning what kind of an athlete you want to be or what kind of person you want to be, and just focus on that.
Yes,
and
sir.
all the comparisons.
Yes, sir.
This person's doing 18 hours. I'm only doing 10 hours. He's running 5 minutes a kilometer. I'm only running 5:30 a kilometer. Then you lose yourself. You're in the comparison game.
I agree.
And what kind of, I am at the age where I just want to be in great shape. And I want to just feel good about
you want to
myself.
live, longer, and you want to be healthy.
All that stuff.
Of course.
All that
so
stuff.
that's the
and
outcome.
if I can perform
So there you
still
go.
at my age.
So then your
Fine.
performance is outcome driven, not output driven.
Oh no, yeah, exactly.
Good.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Let's talk about social media. We only have 3 minutes to go.
We do. So, you know what? Life in general is all about performance. And social media, we briefly touched on it, Coach, before this, the recording of this podcast. The social media, is it good or bad from a performance perspective? Because every time I log on to Strava or any of these tools, right, I see my buddies training, doing better. And then I say, oh, God, I got to go out and do better than that. Is that a motivation factor? Or is it I don't know, does it have a negative impact on your mental readiness when you see this? Is it adding pressure, not necessarily good pressure, on performance? Like, what's your 2 cents on social media?
I really like the fact. First of all, let's talk about Strava because I like the fact that Strava exists because people are not putting their workouts on Facebook or on Twitter.
No,
or on
thank
all the
God,
other
or
things.
LinkedIn or any others.
So
Yeah, I agree.
It's specific so that people can share what they've done during the day.
That's a big pro.
I like that. I also like that you have these people are saying, hey, you're still working out. That's great. You're still being consistent. That's great. Kudos to you.
Well, kudos. You did a great
another-
job. And people, of course.
You did another workout. Fantastic.
Yep.
I like that. It's a bit of peer pressure. What I don't like is that what happens eventually, people start to try to cheat their results to show the people that they're improving. And we talked about this during in the beginning. We talked about that everything was about always improving, and which is impossible. There's no way you can linearly
Well, even
improve
Olympians, they cannot always improve. They get to a point where they've reached their
especially
max.
not in Olympians.
There you go.
Especially not in Olympians. So the problem is that when you start to share these results, and then you feel judged, and people are not actually judging you. People are just congratulating
They're
you.
reacting to what you've
You're
done.
the one who doesn't want to output a bad result. So I think what it could be, you should feel proud of just being
Doing it.
consistent.
Yeah,
just
being
doing
consistent.
It's
I
huge.
agree.
Because 99.9% of the population does not care.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Less than 0.5. They mentioned that stat in LA when I did a marathon. At the start line, 0.5% of the population never ran a marathon. So there you go, right? So we're into running,
Yeah.
and you're into doing triathlon, swim, bike, and run. Well, you know what? Kudos to you.
Yeah.
Right?
My message to everybody is that, and I'd like to finish this podcast with this before you do your thing at the end, which I love, by the way, is I think that if you focus on just being in shape, being consistent, feeling good, getting those endorphins, because obviously doing exercise is great for you. I mean, all the proof is out there that for your long-term health, doing exercise is fantastic. Doing exercise fast is not necessarily what we have to do.
It's not a key for success. No,
It's
no.
not a key for success. If you want to go fast, go fast. If you want to go long, go long. That's for you to decide. And no matter whatever anybody else thinks, you should always go with what you want to do and be proud of that. And if you want to share it, fine. If you don't want to share it, fine.
So make your performance outcome driven. That's what it comes down to. Stay fit, mentally strong, make it outcome driven instead of output driven.
I love it.
Folks, thanks for being coached. It's been a pleasure. Episode number 5 on performance. Wow, time flies. Till next time, take care of yourself and stay fit.